Hey guys, I'm Birdie. Welcome back to Clown Cows. Today, I wanted to discuss the not so complex world of Amberlynn Reid. Before I begin, please know that everything I'm saying is only my personal opinion. No matter how much I say that I'm sure of it or I'm positive about it, it's all just my opinion. Nothing I talk about is fact, and it should never be taken as anything other than one woman's personal thoughts, views, and commentary on any random topic. I do not personally know the people I talk about in these videos. I base my opinions on my own observations of what they choose to make public, and also on what those who do know them have to say about them. Please do your own research, form your own views, and never harass anyone or verbally mistreat anyone that we discuss in any of these videos, okay? Okay, so let's get started. Amber wants to be viewed as mysterious. I'm sure of it. She's the mysterious empath. She's the medical mystery. She's the nearly middle-aged woman who feeds her audience these little crumbs, but then cries on camera because she doesn't want to talk about it. Amber always wants to create a mystery surrounding her existence. Even when she plays around very immaturely with Oracle, Tarot, or even Uno cards, she'll say things like, I know what that card means, but it's a secret, or I know what that's about, but I don't want to talk about it. And privacy is fine. Certainly, as someone like myself who's very introverted, I do prefer my privacy. For example, I've previously shared that just a few days ago I turned 47, and I also told you all that I'm married and I have 4 children. But I have a boundary where I will not talk about my kids. So I'm not saying that Amber shouldn't also have boundaries and keep certain things private. She absolutely should. But that's not what she does. She uses private matters as a lure, as something she dangles in everyone's faces to drop these little crumbs for the purpose of wonder and speculation, because it feeds her ego and fuels her desire to be thought about and regarded as mysterious. But Amber is anything but mysterious or complex. Most of her viewers know her moves weeks, if not months, in advance. So, human complexity as a science within itself involves a lot of different things, such as uniqueness and internal conflicts, contradictions, cultural norms, expectations, diversity, and a never ending range of emotions. So, let's look up the actual definition of human complexity, and then together, let's think about Amber and what she shows us in her videos. And then let's think about that definition of complexity and see if we think she meets any of those guidelines. And one of the reasons I thought this would be fun to do is because Amber likes to look things up online, get a very general definition of it, and then diagnose herself based on that. So if it's good enough for Amber to do, then I guess we can do that when we talk about her as well. So, components of human complexity according to Google. Biological complexity. This is, and I'm quoting all of this, the human body is a system of trillions of cells, each with intricate functions, all organized to form a living organism. The brain, in particular, is a network of billions of neurons with trillions of connections, processing information in highly complex ways. We then have cognitive complexity. Humans have the capacity for self-reflection, abstract thought, and the ability to visualize future states, which drives the setting of goals and complex behaviors. Social and cultural complexity, and this one's a big one for me. Our interactions within societies, shaped by cultural norms, languages, and history, add layers of complexity to our understanding of human actions and behaviors. We then have psychological and emotional complexity. Humans are a mix of contradictory traits such as selfishness and altruism, joy and pain, creating an internal landscape of diverse and sometimes conflicting feelings. And last, but certainly not least, we have individual uniqueness. Each person is a unique product of their genetic makeup and life experiences, resulting in a vast range of individual differences that are hard to classify and are continuously shaped by ongoing learning and development. So, now that we all have a general idea of what human complexity means, let's look at this regarding Amber. She's very simple minded. She is stunted by her own admission. She's not intellectual, as in educated. She's not very smart, as in someone who learns from previous experiences, which is something that is a defined part of human complexity. And she doesn't excel in ration or reason. Amber also seems to struggle with basic concepts, such as calories in versus calories out, or why people who consistently lie become known as liars and therefore are not believed. She has a hard time grasping any concept that could hold her accountable, but she believes anything if she thinks it absolves her of liability. Okay, so let's just look at this for a minute. Let's pretend that someone put something on TikTok, for example. People who weigh over 500 pounds have brain deformities that prevent them from being honest, so it's never their fault if they lie. I really believe if that went viral and if Amber heard about it, she would get on YouTube and start telling us that she only lies because she's super morbidly obese and it's neurological and so it's never really her fault. Okay, so I am trained in psychology, but that's a story for another day. I am not licensed and I am not practicing. I walked away from psychology and I walked away from expanding on that training within that field more than a decade ago, in part because my school of thought changed. Some of you with a similar background as my own may be familiar with the late Dr. Thomas Szasz. I spent years reading about him, reading his books, and studying his ideas, eventually subscribing to his conclusions based on his meticulous research. Without going too deep into this topic, Dr. Szasz, after many years of extensive hands-on research, he believed mental illness as a disease was actually behavioral and curable simply by the person choosing to behave within normal social constructs. And I know that regulating our emotions, which drive our behaviors, can be extremely difficult, but it is possible for us to be in control of us. Dr. Szasz believed that to subscribe to the idea that a mental disease was the causation of someone's behaviors, then we as a society are making excuses for people and not holding them accountable. Here is just an online synopsis of Dr. Szasz's book. It was a 1961 book titled The Myth of Mental Illness. And if you've never read it and if you are interested in psychology, I really, if you're a student of psychology as well, I really encourage you to read his book. This is a quote of an online synopsis, okay? The Myth of Mental Illness, Dr. Thomas Szasz. The book argues that mental illness is only a metaphor for unwanted behaviors and not a biological disease, and that psychiatry's authority over moral and cultural conflicts leads to the scapegoating of individuals for their actions. Dr. Szasz contends that diagnoses of mental illness are used to absolve people of responsibility, and that the psychiatric profession as a whole has become a tool for social control, overreaching into all aspects of modern life. Doesn't that sound so much like Amber and what she's done? She uses mental illness like it's a disease that she cannot treat and cannot control, as if it forces her to behave in certain undesirable ways, and therefore her behaviors are not her fault. We heard her tell her aunt that she acts like she does, including the lying, because as Amber described it, her brain deformed as a child because of trauma and BPD. So Amber wants to exonerate herself of all wrongdoing, absolve herself of all the pain and mistreatment she inflicts on others due to her choice of behaviors, because she thinks she has a tangible disease that makes her do things. Okay, so let's take a very quick trip in the past with me, back to my paralegal days, which was a really long time ago. But I did used to be a paralegal. And I can remember hearing excuses such as, it wasn't me, it was the cocaine. That really reminds me of Amber, because in Amber's mind, if she commits a crime, which in my opinion she regularly does, and I'm thinking about things such as animal cruelty and neglect, and not having her pets registered as soon as she moved to Oklahoma City, the mistreatment of her partners, those are just to name a few. But she believes that she's not at fault because she didn't do it. The BPD did it. But on the topic of complexity and mystery, Amber is just not. She simply does not check those boxes that she so badly desires. I personally think that those with narcissistic tendencies have a propensity to want to be mysterious, complex, different, just grand things that set them apart from us peasants. In my personal opinion, Amber is one of the most simple type of people. I don't believe she challenges her own thoughts. If she is in a situation where she has a tough decision to make with the possibility of a huge life-changing outcome, she impulsively chooses. And if it turns out to be the wrong thing, and if the public finds out about it, the BPD made her do it. Amber is the opposite of complex. She's the opposite of mysterious. Let's look at it one at a time. So let's start with the biological complexity. Yes, Amber is biologically complex, even before her brain mysteriously deformed one rainy day due to undiagnosed BPD as a kid. Next is cognitive complexity. In my opinion, Amber does not display self-reflection and abstract thought. She does not set attainable, realistic goals for herself. And how can she self-reflect because she's so busy disassociating, as she calls it, and I think she's trying to say dissociating. I think Amber thinks that if she's caught in a lie or if she's being confronted, she can avoid the outcome and the wrath of what she's done by being the victim. All she has to do is claim she dissociated due to triggers and trauma. I personally haven't witnessed Amber dissociating, at least not on camera, but that doesn't mean that she hasn't. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it personally. Cultural and social complexity, and this is really a big one for me. So, social and cultural complexity. Does Amber exhibit the ability to understand that people have varying views, beliefs, or opinions based on their cultures or life experiences? Not in my opinion. I think Amber shows the opposite, that if you disagree with her, you're a hater. She gets extremely smug over objective, factual, evidentiary matters, like Helen Keller, the moon landing, or even dieting and weight loss. When people of varying backgrounds have made suggestions to her based on their personal experiences, she's gone completely apeshit on camera. And when she's called out on it, she blames her mental health again, as if it's a separate entity that controls her every movement, word, choice, and actions. Does Amber show psychological and emotional complexity? This is where maybe we would see some internal contradictions, such as putting ourselves first but also having moments of selflessness. I think Amber mostly focuses on Amber. I think she makes choices based solely on appearance, like trying to appear wealthy or established or intelligent, and choices on what makes her feel good or makes her life easy. She just recently did a stream where she was talking about really famous people with millions of subscribers contacting her on her DMs, or the Victoria's Secret models, or people who are celebrities, these A-list celebrities in movies or whatever. Amber really seems to care about how Amber looks. Amber wants people to perceive her in a certain way. Appearance really matters to her. But I still think internally, Amber must have conflicting thoughts and ideas, and here's why. She does absolutely horrific things to others, so I personally think there must be something inside her that battles it out when she makes those choices. Because I do 100% believe that Amber knows when she does something wrong. As much as she blames her, BPD for example, If she didn't know that her behavior was completely unacceptable, then she'd not try to blame it on that disorder. Mental disorder or mental disease, I suppose, since Amber is now claiming that her brain is deformed or malformed, is never an excuse to mistreat others. We are still in control of ourselves, regardless of whether or not we have mental diagnoses. The last is individual uniqueness. Is Amber unique? I'm going to vote yes on here. Amber is a very unique type of person than what I would personally run into on a daily basis. Most people I know are small town country folk. They're kind, considerate of the feelings and differing views of others, and they're open minded to hear about it and even learn new things. They're very unique within their own personalities and their own backgrounds and their own experiences and stories, but they do have a shared kindness and helpful hearts. When I think about Amber and what might make her unique, I think about her grandiosity. That's not something that I run into daily. The things she said about being better than others, her rotten personality that laughs at people who have suffered a health scare or food insecurities, and how she is arrogant, entitled, weak minded, self consumed, and regularly mistreats others, even on camera. Yeah, in my world, Amber is definitely unique to the culture I currently live in. Okay, so I was watching Oh Lordy, It's Jordy because I absolutely love him. And I saw the part where Tammy had talked about the dreamcatcher ordeal. And let me say that I do know a lot about dreamcatchers because I am Native American. The Native American culture, although diverse, is something that I know about, at least within my own tribe. I am biracial and I am half Native American. I used to own a store called Times Forgotten, and I made all Native American things, from moccasins to dream catchers, medicine wheels, medicine bags, so on and so on. And I sold these things to gift shops around the U.S. So when I heard about Amber charging her grandmother $300 for a dream catcher, felt very sad about that. For me, it was a moment that highlighted not only Amber's greed, but also her ignorance. Dream catchers in my culture symbolize spirituality. I've made so many, and I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, and I cannot even tell you how many I've given away for free because they aren't often collected strictly as a novelty, but also because they're very powerful. They not only help filter bad dreams, and I know that's the most common belief in what they're used for, but it's so much more significant than that because they offer these spiritual protection that enables the person to not be attacked with the bad dreams when they are at their most vulnerable and asleep. It is a spiritual tool that people often use for comfort. For me, it would be like upcharging someone who collects Christian crosses. They're likely collecting them because they feel protected by them. And I know some may collect these as art pieces for their beauty, but many who collect things do so for different deep seated reasons. And personally, I thought it was horrible of Amber to charge such an exorbitant fee to send her grandmother the dreamcatcher because it is a spiritual piece and it does offer protection from evil. I don't think Amber would understand that though, because my culture is different from hers. And she again just doesn't display an ability to understand that people can be different and can have different backgrounds, and they should still be respected even if you don't know them personally. I think Amber approaches life like a game, where she wants to win. She wants to construct this narrative, be viewed a certain way, be revered for her self perceived beauty that I personally don't see, and her self perceived quirkiness that I personally define as stupidity. And she never wants to be critiqued or challenged. And if she can manipulate people into those things, she wins. I think she's constructed this game in such a way that if you disagree with her, or even if you offer her friendly advice, you're a hater, fatphobic, homophobic, an ableist, and an enemy. She treats those with differing opinions as enemies, almost as if she believes she gets a prize at the end of the day for winning in her own mind. The only thing I see her gaining is more and more people who dislike her and clock her on what she's doing, and people who are seeing her for the train wreck that she is. And train wrecks are never cute. Amber wants to be complex. She wants to be mysterious. And yes, humans by nature are complex creatures. But within the scope of humanity, there are, in my opinion, those who aren't so complex. People who don't check the boxes on complexity. But that doesn't stop Amber from trying to weave her own web of allure and mystery, usually by teasing a new monthly bout of cellulitis or clickbaiting weight loss that visually, kind of like the moon landing in Amber's words, didn't happen. So, to conclude, I'm just a woman with opinions, and in my personal opinion, Amber is a con artist. She's a farce. She's not complex, not mysterious. She's greedy, self consumed, and arrogant. She plays games with her audience, her closest family members, and her alleged, never seen friends. Amber knows her behaviors are completely out of control. So instead of checkmating herself and getting her shit in order, working on her and improving her behaviors, she just cries mental health problems, usually BPD, and she self absolves from any responsibility or consequence those behaviors would have cost anyone who did not flash the mentally diseased card. I do believe in mental health. I do believe that we have thought processes that we carry with us that are greatly based on past experiences, whether those are good or traumatic experiences. Those thought processes do indeed influence our behaviors. They can drive us. But I do not believe that there are medical mental diseases, such as BPD or bipolar, that are anything more than behavioral disorders brought on by thought processes which were birthed by previous experience, including but not limited to traumas. They're all fixable. I believe Amber could cure herself of whatever mental illness she has or claims to have by simply choosing to regulate her emotions, by choosing to take a deep breath, to take a walk, just to take a moment to think before reacting. I suppose Amber's external locus of control conflicts with my internal locus of control, but that's neither here nor there. Amber is ultimately responsible for Amber, including her choices of behavior, and she can say fuck you as she recently did on one of her live streams when speaking to a member, and then later claim mental health reasons, but Amber could have not attacked her viewer. She could have just not lied to us. She could have just not manipulated us for 13 years. She could just not put pee pads down for Twinkie and take her for walks instead. Amber could just be a better Amber, but she'll never choose to be that. In my opinion, Amber is exactly like her mother, Christine, and I believe she learned these horrid, entitled behaviors that she's exhibited her entire life. I believe these are not biological behaviors. These are learned. Amber is not complex and she's not mysterious. She's like reading a preschooler's book. However, Amber will live out whatever time she has left by being the self-diagnosed empath who regularly disregards the feelings of others. I guess she's a paradox in her own mind. Anyhow, that's my opinion-based rant for today. Leave me a comment if you want to. I know a lot of you are probably not going to agree with everything that I had to say in this video, and that's perfectly fine. Tell me what you disagree with and tell me why. If you agree with something, let me know in the comments down below. Please don't forget to subscribe if you don't care. It's free to do, and it would help me grow this channel. So leave me a comment, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye, guys.